Across Northern Ireland, we've always had a knack for making things. From the shipyards and mills that built our heritage.
This is linen in its most natural form.
To the engineers and innovators shaping what comes next.
The plant actually runs at 3.5 tonne an hour.
Our industries have left their mark on our towns and people.
Very, very nice.
Go on, boy.
This is a story of craft and community. This is Homemade. Coming up on this episode of Homemade, from manufacturing to fashion, we meet the people driving Northern Ireland's green economy.
I think people want to know where their stuff is coming from, that it's durable, that who made it, I think is a big part of it as well.
But our first story highlighting sustainability brings us to Ballymena. This transport business was in serious trouble. This protest less than a decade ago saw workers fighting for their jobs. But now Wrightbus is considered as one of the great comeback stories. Employing thousands and turning over millions of pounds, a key part of their roaring return has been a transition to renewable energy.
Nearly everything we do is around green energy right now, and 90% of our buses we make are zero emission buses, and the two main options in that are battery electric buses, and we also do hydrogen buses, and we've just sent another 130 hydrogen buses into Germany at the moment, so they're out there and they're actually on the road and working.
Talk us through a little bit about how you've seen demand for sustainable energy increase over the past few years.
The last few years, obviously, since the rebirth about 5 years ago, we've gone from very little up to about 90% of zero emission buses. I mean, a lot of that is driven by TfL in London and the ESG being pushed from outside and all the big companies outside requiring zero emission buses. But we're the biggest bus company in the UK at the moment, and we're the fastest growing bus company in Europe, and a lot of that is based on the technologies we've used to push the green energies and the zero emission buses.
We've got a really inspiring vision in delivering greener transport for all, and one thing that I always find so absolutely extraordinary is that Wrightbus has had this amazing period of growth, and we've done so going from 40, 50 people to over 2,000, way over 2,000, is by pivoting from over 95% diesel buses to over 95% zero emission buses. So for a sustainability advocate and professional like myself, it's a wonderful story about net zero delivering growth, real economic growth and jobs.
How important is it to be kind of one step ahead of what the next innovation is going to be in that sector?
It's really important to stay ahead of the curve effectively, and we do research and we got projects on the go that are looking at how do we improve BEVs, obviously by working with our suppliers, but also in the hydrogen front. It's really important that we have multiple choices of zero emissions, because not every bus depot can be electrified. And that's where hydrogen needs to step in, and that's why we make a hydrogen bus and have that option. And we're doing quite a lot of research into how to make hydrogen more affordable, more usable.
One of the company's next ambitions is diversifying, from the famous big red buses of London to another vehicle people see every day. Lorries are a new focus with the same concept as the hydrogen buses, with an aim to produce one of these every week at the site in Ballymena.
In terms of the logistics sector, how key will it be to move over to electric?
So the logistics sector is like 6 to 7 years behind the bus sector, where 7 years ago you go into a bus depot and they're trying to buy electric and didn't understand how you run electric or the benefits that much, so there's quite a bit of a hard sell. But now I think the bus industry is way ahead of the transport sector, and I think it's a really good opportunity for Wrightbus here with this truck, because the capex cost is half the price of a new electric, and very similar to diesel. So we think we've got a really good opportunity here.
The driving force of this business now is a major steer away from diesel engines, which has been good for both profits and the environment. But what does the future hold for a rapidly changing industry?
Zero emissions will play a pivotal and critical role in public transport, both now and in the future. Now we see multiple solutions being deployed in many different environments. We offer both a battery electric vehicle across multiple battery configurations and capacities. The government are certainly signed up to it. We're seeing more and more initiatives around zero emission incentives for fleet operators, which will of course in turn drive our demands. And the benefits of that as we continue to revolutionise and decarbonise the public transport sector as a whole is without question a fantastic opportunity here for not just Wrightbus but for the entire industry.
The next 5 or 10 years, we're obviously looking at market expansion. We're looking at how we're growing all the markets around us, and it's not just sticking to Great Britain or Europe. Yeah, we've got a factory out in Malaysia that we're growing. We're currently talking to a lot of people around Asia about supplying buses of all different types. We're designing new buses for particular tenders that are out in the Asian market. So even though we're based in Northern Ireland and we have a big workforce here, it's about 2,500 people who work in Wrightbus direct. In the UK alone, that supports another 7,500 jobs of supporting our suppliers and everything else. So we're employing 10,000 people at the minute, and part of that growth is how do we continue that growth within UK to make sure that we're keeping work local and everything else. And in Northern Ireland, particularly where the factory is, this is the centre of that decarbonisation story for Wrightbus.
It's really important to decarbonise transport, and I have a long history and career in sustainability, but what is really inspiring is that the bus industry really can be one of the first industries that is decarbonised because the technology exists. So clearly there are many actors across the spectrum that have a different role to play, but decarbonising public transport, especially because solutions exist and the technology exists, is a really big contribution.
Our next story brings us to Queen's University, which has worked alongside companies to create new materials from old waste. Brona has worked at the university for more than 20 years. Over that time, the drive for all companies to become greener and more sustainable has increased. This machine turns old beach waste into pellets.
So what we've just done is we have introduced some of that beach material that was flaked into pellet into the extruder. It's travelling down through the extruder at 250 degrees C, and it's forming a filament at the end of the die here, and that gets pulled off into a cooling bath, and at the bottom of the cooling bath, once it's all turned back into a solid material, it gets chipped back up into pellets, and those pellets can then be fed into any process like extrusion process or moulding process to remake materials again. So this is truly seeing this circular supply chain being created, recycled waste material going in at the end of the extruder, and a valuable new polymer coming out the other end.
They've worked on developing hydrogen tanks for safe storage of what can be a dangerous gas.
Northern Ireland has a history of oil storage tanks, coal bunkers. And a lot of those were actually made in polymers and plastics. But some of the newer fuels that are coming to the fore would be the likes of hydrogen gas. And so we've been involved in the development of storage containers for hydrogen gas. In particular, we've been involved in the development of the liner, the polymer liner that keeps the hydrogen molecule within the tank. We like to think that we help the companies de-risk their innovation. We are a very much collaborative, open access innovation centre within Northern Ireland, and we're addressing the challenges that manufacturing companies within Northern Ireland have.
There's definitely been a flip in the past 10 or so years where people are now interested in getting more recycled content into their products. Being able to say on the packaging that they've got recycled content in the product. You'll see it a lot in food packaging industry. You buy a carbonated drink or a water bottle, and it'll say on it that it's made from 100% recycled. The bottle's 100% recycled.
Where do you think Northern Ireland stands in terms of their own green economy? Do we still have a bit of work to do? Do we still have a way to go?
I think we're doing quite well. We've got a great agility because of the regional size in Northern Ireland, so you can literally pick up the phone and have the CEOs of all the companies on a phone call by the end of the week. So we're very agile, we can move very quickly, we can set up all those local connections. So, and like you would have said in the past, one man's waste is another man's gold. The waste that's coming from one company can very quickly be turned into the material input for another company. So we're able to set up all those local supply chains really, really quickly.
Northern Ireland is really shown itself as very much as a test bed for a lot of these sustainable technologies, but we're also seeing that we're actually sort of a national level technology centre with very, very unique skills, particularly in the area of polymers and sustainable polymers and sustainable composites. So Northern Ireland is very well positioned within the broader sort of UK and Europe in that whole area of sustainable manufacturing.
Coming up after the break, we'll see how this technology at Queen's is being used at a local pipe factory. Next up, we're off to Dublin to meet fashion designer Shifra. Working as a designer for Adidas in Germany, she became disillusioned with the fashion industry and decided to move home to create her own brand, with sustainability and traceability at its core. Having worked for a brand like Adidas is obviously a huge thing. That's what a lot of people would go into, sort of fashion, and it would be their dream. What was it about it that made you kind of realise that there is a more sustainable way to move into the industry?
Well, yeah, it was my dream to work there, and I remember distinctly sitting one day looking out the window and feeling like, God, I could actually be working anywhere. We definitely were at the cutting edge of the sustainability movement with regards to like getting to use interesting fabrics, but it was more the quantities that made me disillusioned, and the kind of the lack of connection I had with the end product as well, that I just was a cog on a very big system. I wanted to create something that I was part of the process, but that also was sustainable and interesting. So I started off making the bags from different kinds of materials, whatever I could source within local distance really. And then people started to kind of understand and recognise that each item was one of one, and that kind of intrigued people. And then I started to, I suppose, also using social media to storytell and to show me creating it and start to finish, from collecting the materials, which I use a lot of tarpaulin, so going to the lorry yard, collecting it, bringing it back, industrially washing it, cutting it, stripping it, cutting it for a bag, then making it into a bag. So when people saw the whole process, they became much more interested and engaged.
And engaging people in the process was key to her success. In a world of fast fashion and mass production, Shifra believes that consumers are becoming more interested in where their items come from. This is the material that you make your bags out of?
Yes.
Where does this all come from?
Well, so this is probably the smallest amount I've ever had. When I was moving studios, I cut back a lot of stuff, because a lot of the time when I'm getting these materials, I get them for free a lot of the time, but there's definitely no such thing as a free lunch. And very often there's a lot of problems, because a tarpaulin is very expensive to manufacture. So it comes to me at the very end of its life, and maybe it's been welded and patched in places, and so there's maybe big giant holes in it, or a lot of the time they're lying in a yard for years, and so they're covered in snails and muck by the time I get them. So we industrially wash them, and then sometimes they come together and they're amazing, and sometimes they're just absolutely not doing anything. But in general, they're kind of they're okay condition, but you definitely can't use the whole tar. Initially, I think I struggled a bit. That I think because I was using old materials. I think people kind of couldn't quite understand the necessity, and then I think there's been so much in the media around the importance of using the materials that we already have. I think then everybody started to understand that we're like drowning in stuff and material and everything, and yeah, I think people want to know where their stuff is coming from, that it's durable, that who made it, I think is a big part of it as well.
Do you think the fashion industry in general is leaning towards a bigger role in our green economy?
That's really tricky to say. I think there's a lot more awareness, and I think that there's new legislation that's going to come in the next couple of years that's going to hopefully change a lot of things, where it's basically like the end of life responsibility will be put back on the producer. I feel at the moment the fashion industry is not contributing. If anything, it's the opposite. So for me, there's a constant kind of struggle with regards to, I'm making more stuff, am I part of this problem? But I also feel if you don't have a seat at the table, you can't be part of the change also. And I am keen to be part of the change and show the way to do things better and more sustainably and more ethically.
For Shifra, this is about much more than just the end product. From suppliers to consumers, a community has grown around the business.
I love going out and sourcing tarps. I love that my supply chain is basically my phone book full of like Mickey blue tarp, Sean yellow tarp, Kieran green tarp. You know, I really enjoy that, and the kind of the crack, and a kind of a community is almost built around the brand as well, which has been really surprising for me. But like, a lot of people would maybe send me photographs of them with someone else that they've just bumped into wearing a bag, and they're like, oh, I just met this girl and she's really dead on, and you know, so I really like that people sort of spot each other out in the street and sort of interact with each other through the bags.
If you've ever wondered where the content of your recycling bin ends up, well, it could be somewhere like here. Every hour, tons of household recyclables are processed on this site near Nuts Corner. Just like we saw at Queen's earlier in the programme, this is plastic being converted into pipes. But here, it's on a much larger scale.
So on this particular site, we buy in mixed plastic bottles from different council areas within Northern Ireland. So this is plastic waste that's in everybody's household bins. We bring it onto the site here, and we then sort it into their different polymer types. The main product that we are after here is all EHD grade, because within the company we recycle that then and produce the pipes from that.
There's a massive amount of stuff even just sitting here. How much comes through this factory?
To give you an idea, the plant actually runs at 3.5 tonne an hour. And the plant runs 5 days a week, so it is a busy site, and it's not the biggest site. So as soon as the material's made, we need to make sure and we shift it down to our sites to reprocess that again. And this is all, like I say, from local household bins, which we need to keep our business running as well.
A focus on using recycled materials isn't just about a sustainable ethos. It also makes business sense, ensuring that there's always enough raw material to meet demand.
David Cherry, who founded the company, who's still the chief executive and in here on a daily basis, he originally had a concrete business, but he progressed on to doing plastic pipes, right, manufacturing plastic pipes. And the problem he had at the start was he couldn't get the feedstock to make the pipes. He was taking them in from Europe and different places. The quantity was the problem, the supply, and then the quality. So what he decided, he would have to make his business sustainable, he would need to start his own recycling site, because 95% of our pipes are made out of recycled material. The very positive thing for us is we all live, as we're fully aware, a very volatile society across Europe and across the world. So it leaves our business sustainable. We're helping the green economy, we're processing waste in Northern Ireland, and we're bringing an end product that we sell all over Ireland and the UK.
Once sorted into different categories, plastics are sent to a second site to be washed and made into pellets.
So it's quite a unique site here. We have a lot all under one roof. So we have the bottles, like you say, coming down from Nuts Corner. They're brought down to the washing side of the factory here, where we resort it and wash it, granulate it and put it into a flake that then we can use in our process. From that then, it's then sent across to our pelletizing line, what we call is like a cake mix. There's different reed grinds going in, there's the bottle grade going in, and that actually makes the final product to manufacture our pipes from.
From those pellets, pipes are created, used in everything from civil engineering projects like roads and railways, to drainage pipes for Premiership football grounds and Ryder Cup venues. And at the company's third site, you get a real sense of the scale of this operation.
This is our head office site, so we've been to our Nuts Corner site where we bring in the mixed bottles and sort them into their different polymer types. We've been to our Lurgan site where it shows the recycling of them then to manufacture the pellet to do that. The pellet then comes down to our head site here and we manufacture its land drainage coils, twin wall pipes, and we supply them to the agri, civil and sports field market. Interesting site again, and again all from recycled material.
And the thing that strikes you when you come here is how massive it is out the back.
The scale of the site's unbelievable. It's a 24-acre site. As the director says, we have the storage here to supply it to our customers. We always have the stock for that. So when we look around you'll see just the scale of the operation.
The commitment that Cherry Pipes has to sustainability has become something of a USP for clients. And the hope is that that will be a solid foundation for the future of the company.
When we're talking about selling pipes, one of the questions they're saying to be, how you fared looking at the green economy. So we're able to bring them over, show them what we're doing, which is amazing. And there's very few of our competitors has the full closed loop process.
Do you think the fact that you are a closed loop business and because of the sort of sustainability benefits, do you think that will stand you in good stead for the future in terms of how the company's going to grow?
Oh no, it's our main sort of foundation for growing, because if you have a business, a manufacturing business, you could have a great manufacturing plant, manufacturing staff, but if there's a dip in your feedstock, that can affect the whole process. So we have now, think we built a process which is sustainable and will do us some good stead in the years ahead.